Southside.
Go ahead.
In accordance with NJSA 10:4-6 at SEC, New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting was provided by the Board Secretary to the Daily Record and published on December 13th, 2018, by stating the time, place, and date of all regularly scheduled meetings, and by filing a copy with the municipal clerk. A copy of this should be included with the minutes of this meeting. Laura, please call the roll.
Mr. Berkowitz.
Here.
Mr. Joskowitz.
Here.
Mr. Reddy.
Yes.
Mr. Willens.
Here.
Chairman Irakane.
Present.
We also have Mr. King.
Present.
Mr. Chadwick.
Present.
And Mr. Wallow.
Present.
Okay, let's start off with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. At this point, is there any member of the public that has any business to be brought to this board that is not on this evening's agenda? I hear none and see none. Do we have anything to do in the way of,
No resolution.
no resolutions, no minutes?
Nope.
Nothing. Okay. All righty. I guess we can go right into the applications then. The first one on my list is Michael Hess, 8 Marion Place. Please come forward.
Sir, you're the applicant and the owner of the house? Okay.
Yes.
Could you raise your right hand? You swear from testimony you're about to give before the board is true so help you God?
Yes,
And for the record, can you state and spell your name?
Michael Hess, H-E-S-S.
And again, you are the owner of this subject property?
Yes.
Thank you. You may have a seat.
Is this garage there, or are you planning
No,
on building? Okay,
planning on
because it says to legalize, and legalize usually means it's already there.
Yeah, no, it's not.
It's not there, okay. And you back up onto Interstate Route 80?
80, yes.
Okay, so you have no neighbors behind you?
No,
A lot of cars, right?
yes.
And let's see what you're looking for. You want to put this in a buffer along Route 80 right-of-way to maintain the grade and vegetation. The stipulations on approving any structures or fences and the buffer still exists today unsurveyed. Board relief is requested to allow the detached. All right, so your only issue is the buffer?
Yes,
What's in that buffer?
nothing. Oh, I have a shed there now? and a
No, I
fence.
mean, is there trees in
No,
it?
nothing.
I didn't think it was.
Yeah, I don't
Where's
know.
80 in relationship to your property? Above, below?
Behind it.
I know, but in terms of elevation.
Elevation.
Probably the same level as my yard. My house is
You
higher
can, see,
than.
you can see the cars going by?
Yeah, yes,
There's no wall there?
no. Unless you guys like to put a wall there, I'd appreciate that.
So the shed will kind of block some of the car.
Yes. Well, my understanding was the original buffer was because of, for the contract, the developer of that block, to stop sight of Route 80.
Right.
And that, I was here like 2 years ago, and you guys allowed me to put a fence up, which then blocks Route 80 and the noise from coming up. Same thing with said garage, would block noise and view of Route 80.
This buffer would really keep houses out.
And we're the only block with the buffer. There's a lot number 1208, I believe. He's only 20 feet off his property line. And that's 20 feet off of my property. We're on the same property line. Like the line goes straight across 80, and his house is 20 feet off of his property line. So technically, if he had a buffer zone, his whole house would be in the buffer zone. And that's the block right next to mine.
Is this the application that we approved 2 years ago?
Yes. No, this is a different one.
This is a different one?
This is a different one.
Okay.
That was
I'm
the
sorry.
That was
was
the
a shed.
fence.
Yeah, the fence and shed, yes.
Okay, because we have a case where the people stopped, they hadn't built in a few years and they wanted to resurrect the application.
Oh, yeah, no.
Okay. Any other questions by the board? John, you're okay?
Yes.
Any members of the public have any questions of this witness on the testimony given? Please come forward.
Sir, for the record, could you state your name?
Yeah, my name is Jurjun Jang.
Can you spell that?
J-R-J-Y-U-N. Jang. J-A-N-G. That's the last name.
And where do you live?
I live 10 Marion Place next door.
Excuse me for 1 second. No, he doesn't. He lives in Mendon. He owns the house. He
I
doesn't
own
live
the
there. The house is
I
abandoned.
I live on both sides, and I do pay taxes and I do use my house, so I just have a few questions actually.
Sure, go right ahead.
Yeah, so,
Please
I
use the
don't know-
microphone. Sit down and use the
Sit down
microphone.
and use
Okay.
the microphone, okay?
I'd like to know the details, like, of these changes, if that's for a parking garage, not a repair garage, right? Or I just want to confirm all the terminology, make sure that,
Well, it's not a commercial zone, so he cannot run a business out of there.
uh,
It's a residential zone,
it's a,
so he can't run a business out of there.
right, and so this for parking for his own car purpose.
Is that correct? That's,
It won't even be for my cars. I just have a lot of toys, wave runners and stuff like that. Just house, just, normal sport utility stuff.
okay.
So used for storage?
Yes.
So the structure is 25 by 40. I'd like to know a little bit more detail, like how many parking space is tend to be in there.
25 by 40.
Right.
I mean, it's self-explanatory.
I don't know how many parking space you plan to put in there.
How many doors are gonna be on there?
Yes.
One door, double
One
door
door.
or single door?
The double doors.
So the one double door.
One double
So the
door.
most you can most likely put in there is 2 cars. If you were
Probably,
going to
yes.
put,
Yeah.
if you forgot your toys, you could put 2 cars in.
Yeah.
It's a 2-car garage.
Okay.
Usually 25 by 40 is 2 car garage.
And you're not exceeding any heights?
No, just,
Right.
Everything
if I
else-
didn't have the buffer zone, I'm perfectly well in zoning.
Uh-huh.
I'm not changing nothing for zoning. As long as the buffer zone wasn't there, I wouldn't even be here.
Yeah, that's why I want to confirm that, because 40 by my garage front measure is about 22, 23 feet for 2-car garage. So
That's okay.
I'm just curious. That's all. Because 40, 25 seems to be a
It's deep,
huge.
it's deeper than, it's not,
It's
it's
big.
probably not any wider than a garage, it's just deeper.
Right. Basically, the number 3 is since it's deep in the back, I don't know what direction the gate is going to face, and how does the car going in and out going to be, because right now I don't see a pathway coming to the front as daily use. So I want to confirm, because the driveway is right up, my land is right next to it, right? And if you look at the diagram, my house is right next to it, it's very narrow. So what's the plan for the road? And I don't want
You're
the
gonna
car
put
to
a
just
driveway in?
drive on the.
No, I'm not.
You're not gonna
And-
put a driveway in.
Okay, so the garage is gonna be on the other side from his house. So I don't understand why he's even complaining. He already knows I have a double door gate on my fence on the other side of the property. And that's where it's gonna be coming in, nowhere near his property. The garage is gonna be on the other side.
No,
If
I'm-
anybody should be complaining, it should be the other neighbor, and she doesn't say nothing.
I'm not complaining, I'm just asking that how does the driveway, how does car come in and out daily?
He's not getting
He's
it
not gonna-
approved, there's no driveway shown on the plan, so
No,
he doesn't
none.
get one.
He's not gonna put cars in it.
He's got little
Garage, not
AT
parking car?
He's got little ATVs and wave runners, and he's gonna push them over there, or drive them
It's like a
over there.
big shed.
Yeah.
Shed. Yeah, maybe that's what you should have called it.
I already have a shed.
Any other questions?
That's my question, because I just have doubts, and if the traffic are coming in and out from the backyard has to come through my side at the gate,
He
and
doesn't
it's a
even live
grass.
there. He lives in Mendham.
I
This
live
is-
there.
Owns the
excuse me,
house.
No,
sir.
that's-
I live,
that's-
Your Honor,
I He's worried about traffic.
I-
That's the thing.
I
I have a
live-
problem with
Sir,
him.
sir,
That's my
this is
issue.
his
That's
turn,
not-
it's his turn
No,
to ask
that's fine.
questions.
That's fine.
I'm here to final facts. I don't have any argument. I don't
Do you have
want to
any
get
other
into
questions?
argument. That's all my question, and I'm just afraid that the access pass has to come from my side, and it's all grass, and in and out, I don't want it to be messy, that looks bad, right? And in
Okay,
the
but he says
inside
he's not
also,
gonna,
the
he's not gonna
turnaround,
put cars in there, so.
And it's not part of this application, which is before us.
He has no driveway in the plans, so if he was going to create a driveway, he'd have to come back most likely, or get a zoning and a building permit to put a driveway in.
Excuse me, can I show him something?
Sure.
This is my property. You're on this side. The double gate's here. This garage is here. Has nothing to do with your property. You know this. You've been in front of my house.
Excuse me, this is not
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
forum.
I'm
for
sorry.
this.
If anybody would like to see this,
We're
it's
good.
the survey.
I think we have it.
so I don't know the next step. In the end, will the neighbor be notified with the outcomes, and or if there's a change to the plan or whatever, do we
If he
get
has to come
notified?
back before this board, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I just try to find out more information and find
Yeah,
out the
that's
facts.
all.
And
Thank
so still, in the end, I hope the property not be messy and the grass is not ruined, run over by traffic or something. Yeah.
Thank you.
You know, I don't even know if there's a rule against that, is there?
What?
Driving over the grass with an ATV or something?
Not parking around vehicles. You can't do that.
The town is a property maintenance code. If he doesn't cut his grass or whatever, they'll come around.
I do, I have no problems.
Okay. Any other members of the public have any questions of this witness on the testimony given? I hear none and see none. There's nothing else you'd like to add, is there?
No, just, basically, I'm putting the garage up, it stops basically the reason for the buffer. The reason why I shouldn't have it.
Are there any members of the public who wish to speak in opposition to this application? In support of this application? I hear none and see none. Someone like to make a recommendation?
Sure. I find it to be de minimis in nature. You're not asking for a driveway, you have no intention of parking cars back there, to sort of keep it uncluttered, keep your private property private. I will be voting for it and recommending so.
Okay, someone frame a resolution?
Application 19:37, Michael Hess, 18 Marion Place, Block 626, Lot 17.08. Is under Zone R3 to grant or issue C variance to a detached garage in a buffer zone.
Jaskowitz, second.
Any discussion? Nora, please call the roll.
Mr. Berkowitz.
Yes.
Mr. Jaskowitz.
Yes.
Mr. Reddy.
Yes.
Mr. Willens.
Yes.
Chairman Aricane.
Yes. Result is the variance is granted. We'll memorialize this at our next meeting, which I believe is in 2 weeks. And then you'll be able to refer it on your head. Okay?
No problem, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, application 1938, Stephen and Sarah Leith, 24 Bohm Avenue, C variance, construct an addition.
Will you both be providing testimony? Mr. Attorney, no, this is the architect. Both of you will be providing, okay. Could you raise your right hands? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give before the board is true, so help you God? And for the record, can you state and spell your name?
Lythe. Lyon.
And you're the owners of the subject home?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Have a seat. You're sworn. Are you going to provide? Okay, could you raise your right hand? You swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give before the board is true, so help you God? And for the record, can you state your name?
Sure. John Lyons, Lyons.
And you're going to give testimony with regard to?
I'm a licensed architect.
Okay, and all your licenses are in full force and effect?
Yes, they are.
You've been qualified either before this board or other boards in the state of New Jersey?
I have.
Thank you. You're qualified. Mr. Chairman, I believe he's qualified as next.
Okay. Who's going to start off? Are you or you going to let the
I'm
architect start?
happy to speak. What would you like me to address?
Well, I'd just like to maybe tell us a little bit about your property
Certainly.
and what you'd like to do. You're in Mount Tabor?
Yeah, we moved into Mount Tabor at the beginning of this year. We very much love the community there, and this is a home that we're looking to essentially retire into. The house itself we ideally wanted to expand it slightly, both to provide a parking garage, but also slightly larger space for bedrooms and so forth. We also have a very narrow and steep set of stairs, and we wanted to be able to modify the home so that we could use that in our elderly years as well. So that's really the purpose behind our application, is to create a more usable space throughout the home.
Okay. And says you're going to proposing a 2-story addition for garage with bedroom above, 1-story addition for half bath, and that's at the location of the existing overhang.
Yeah.
And this is for just more living space, is that
It's
correct?
really just it's both slightly more living space, but also to configure it so it's more useful to us in the long term.
And you're gonna pull up that, see which side of the house is it? Looking at the house would be on the right-hand side.
Yes,
They're gonna take all that pavement out of there.
correct. That's all going to be turned into lawn and garden.
Roughly a balance between what's covered with hot building and pavement today and what's gonna be.
Roughly, yes.
You want your architect to tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about what you...
Certainly. John?
You're gonna need to have a microphone so you can grab one of those out of the holder.
Was this submitted with the application?
Yes, these are the drawings that were submitted with the application. The first drawing is a site plan grading plan that was prepared by E2PM Project Management. They're civil engineers. This is the site plan to get you oriented. The lot is, it's an interesting lot because this is our lot that all the calculations are based on, this rectangle. However, the Lyths also own this square behind it. However, because this square doesn't have continuous frontage, we can't use that square footage towards any of our calculations. So that doesn't count as part of our building coverage or lot coverage. We can only count this space. However,
Say who?
the zoning department, we confirm with them. It's because it doesn't have, I guess, frontage on Bohm.
I don't know why they didn't merge the lot.
Yeah, but as of now, they're independent lots, but they're both owned by Steve and Sarah.
Do you own those lots in title, or do you own those as a 99-year lease?
It's a lease.
Okay, that's why they don't merge. Okay.
But we apparently can apply to have the lots merged together.
You can.
I believe so, yes. I did ask.
The lot as it stands is it's an existing non-conforming undersized lot. This is in the R3 zone where 15,000 square feet is the minimum lot. This is 4,200, so it's less than a third of what is required in that zone. And with that, we run into some challenges in terms of coverage and setbacks. The front yard for the property, the minimum front yard is 40 feet required. Our property is only 37.5 feet deep. So we will be in the front yard no matter what we do. Our entire property is in the front yard setback. And just giving you again kind of the lay of the land, this space, which is marked as the two-story frame dwelling and shown in white, that's the existing building. What we're proposing is there's an existing overhang here. There's a column on this corner. This is the one-story addition for a powder room. This has a roof covering it currently. However, it's exterior. There's a AC condenser under it now. We're proposing to make that an interior space. And then this is the two-story addition for garage and then a bedroom above. And I'll bring you through the floor plans. We talked about the front yard. Side yards we're conforming. We have minimum 10-foot side yards on either side. We have 20.1 feet on the left side, and we have 32.9 feet on the right side. So we have a lot of space on either side. The rear yard, we are non-conforming. Rear yard required is 20 feet, and we are at 3.6. That's existing. We're at 3.6 existing, and we're remaining 3.6 feet. Again, that is at this section, that is actually to the Lyth's other property. This property is 37.5 feet deep. However, that is not counted in terms of the rear yard at that point. Moving on to building coverage, at this point, we need a front yard variance, we need a rear yard variance, and we need a variance for building coverage. We're proposing a building coverage of 39.1%, where 15% is allowed. The existing home is at 23.6%. And again, just to give you a reference, the 15% that's allowed for building coverage on this property would be 360 square feet that's allowed, meaning the entire home could be 20 feet by 18 feet. Just to give you a reference on what's allowable with the undersized lot. In terms of lot coverage, is the last variance that we require, that where our proposed is 50.26%. Existing, we're at 48%. So we're only adding 2% plus or minus for lot coverage. The way we're able to do that is because on the right side, this is all paved, as you mentioned. This is all paved, and this would be coming out. This existing pavement would be removed and would be planted as grass. The road was just redone recently, and we actually met with engineering because we were in the works on the design as the work was being done. We met with them. We're coordinated with them in terms of where the curb cuts would be and where the drainage would be, and that's all. If this were to be approved, that's all coordinated with them, so they don't have to go backwards on anything.
Are there any drainage issues as it stands now?
There are no drainage issues on the property now. It's kind of a swale on either side of the road now, and this is the hill keeps on going up Bohm, so water just kind of comes running down in the other side of Bohm down the swales and goes down. there, and that would be maintained. And actually, it's been improved. It's been improved within the last, what was that, 6 months that they did the work on the road. Moving on to the floor plan. This is the existing home with a covered front porch. You enter into the dining room.
And this was also part of the application?
Yes, these are the drawings. This is drawing A1.1, which was submitted. This is as submitted. And you enter into the dining room. There's a family room, kitchen, laundry room, and then this is that little space we talked about that is currently a covered porch. This is the column where an AC condenser is. We're enclosing that space. The proposed, we're adding the garage. We're adding a new stair. This is the existing stair, which is extremely steep and it's extremely narrow, as Stephen mentioned. We're proposing a new stair that would be code compliant, that as you come in, that would get you up to the second floor and also would get you down to there's a very limited basement, but it would get you down to that basement. We were able to increase the size of the kitchen and the garage on the first floor at the time. At the second floor, the existing home is 3 bedrooms. There's bedroom 1, 2, 3, and a bathroom. What we're proposing is to convert one of those bedrooms into office and laundry and add a new bath and move the 1 bedroom. So we would still have 3 bedrooms, but we would have 2 baths when we're done. Right now it's 3 bedrooms, 1. We would add a bath.
And this is also submitted with the
This
application?
is drawing A1.2 as submitted. We've gone to great lengths to try to keep the size of this down. In this bedroom, we have 6-foot plate heights on either side of these walls. We're at 7-foot plate heights. We have 4'4" and 5'7". We wanted to bring the height of it down, and we also wanted to work with and match the existing character of the outside of the house, match the existing the pitch of the roof, and stay in keeping with the character of the home. Moving on to that, this is the front. These are the proposed elevations. This is drawing A 2.0. The existing front elevation. The Lights love the look of their home. They want to maintain that. We're not touching that section, and we're trying to tie into the existing details in our new. This is a gable dormer where we tie in some of the gable rake details. The materials, we're going to match the material on the upper, and then this would be the garage below. On the left side, you can see the massing of it is staying. We're just moving out towards the left side yard. You can see the porch on the front that's remaining, and then this would be the garage in that bedroom above.
The doors to the garage, the lower left-hand corner, that's facing the road, right?
Yes, correct.
Does that show doors down there in the bottom?
Yes, it's a door. It would be one large door to allow for ease of getting in and out. This is that's the door.
I get
It's like a
it.
carriage house style door.
I get it. That whole this section is the door.
One door, yes.
Sell a window.
The right side of the home, which is a very attractive elevation, we're not touching. That's staying as is. The only change here is this column, which is that little covered area, is now becoming an enclosed area. It's the 1-story piece there. And you can see the roof and the column are already there. This is the rear of the home, where we're pushing out to, again, that's the bedroom above, and this is in the garage. This is staying other than enclosing. This little area here is becoming that enclosed area here.
You said the open area bottom right is for an air conditioner?
Yes.
So where's it going after it's enclosed?
It would be shifted over. It's showing it right next to that in that same location, but just shifted out to
Okay.
to the exterior.
Uh-huh.
Do you need a variance for the location of the air conditioning unit?
Not of the condenser. We have the 4 variances we need are the front yard, the rear yard, building coverage, and lot
So you don't
coverage.
need a rear yard?
It's not in the rear yard. Well,
Yes, it is.
it's in the rear yard.
Yeah, but let's put it on your list.
The
There are too many air conditioner areas.
we tried to keep the height of the home down. The ridge of the existing home matches. This is only 1'8" above that at one point. Again, just we wanted to keep the existing pitches to match and keep the look of the house as it is now. Were there any questions from the board?
Any questions by the board? Bernie, no?
No, I just, I was just concerned that they needed the variance.
Any members of the public have any questions of this witness on testimony given? Please come forward.
Ma'am, can you state your name?
Well,
You can take it.
So you need to talk into it
okay,
anyway.
Thanks. Terry Goetz, 31 Whitfield Place, Mount Tabor. I don't want to be unneighborly. I'm already very fond of you. Well, why would you buy that house in a congested section of Mount Tabor, which looks more historic? We're all on top of each other. Why wouldn't you buy and renovate on the side of town where there's more room?
The simple answer is that at the time we were purchasing it was the only house available to us. One of the things about Mount Tabor is that houses come and go instantly.
Yes.
And literally, we managed to secure that home before it even went on the market.
Yes.
We went to see it 5 days before it was going to come on the market, and we bought it there and then. Did we have ground plans at that point that we needed to do that? No. But clearly we are mindful of, and we are blessed with a sizable piece of land that allows us to expand.
Yes.
And we're certainly not looking to contribute or to undermine the area in any shape or form. You know, we definitely want to keep the character of the house, and that's displayed in the plans.
You're one of the only people that actually has some grass on that side of Mount Tabor.
Yeah.
And you have two gigantic dogs
Yeah.
that I'm not certain where they get contained, because you're both doing your best to stay on top of those dogs that are always trying to get out in their little area, and now they're going to have less area. And that beautiful stone wall is going to come down.
So they actually have more room than they used to when we lived in Morristown. We had a very small yard there. So in fact, they love what we have. And
But half of it's going to go to
no,
the...
well, it's going to go to the other side. So they'll have access to the lawn in the other side. They'll have free run round the house, and they get walked every day.
Yes. And then there's that beautiful stone wall that's 100 years old.
Sure. The wall, there's about an 18-foot section of the wall that's still going to remain. Some of it will be removed, but
About how much is getting removed? Because I see the dip in the curbing. So I see how much is getting removed.
some of it is being removed, absolutely.
About how much is getting removed?
There might be, I don't have an exact number on it because on the proposed, but I'd say maybe 18 feet are coming down, 18 feet are staying.
Exactly, half.
Sure.
It's just another piece that's 100 years old in Mount Tabor that's coming down. It's just disturbing, that's all.
But
It's
equal-
going up
but-
two flights.
But equally, on the other side, you've got a horrible piece of
Oh, the
black
macadam is,
macadam
yes.
that is going to disappear. And as you've seen, Sarah loves.
Yes, she
gardening.
loves gardening,
And
yes.
it's our intention to make that look beautiful. So I'm very mindful of the responsibility that you have
Mm-hmm.
at the home in Tabor. Sorry, using the microphone. Very, very mindful of the responsibility we have, and I totally understand the point of view you're making, and it's our earnest desire to, we're invested in the community and being in this home in the long term. It's not something we're looking to do and then flip. This is something that we're doing for our long term.
And when the stairwell gets widened, because it's narrow, and any home in Mount Tabor,
Which stairwell? Oh, the stairs?
yeah, stairs.
Well, the reason there is that I wanted to be able to walk up it when I'm
Right.
in my 80s.
Yes.
And I can run up it now because I'm quite fit, but I can't guarantee I'm going to have that in 30 years' time.
No, me either.
So
But
that's
all
the
of
point.
the stairs in that section of town, that of 100-year-old houses, all of the stairs are narrow and steep.
Right, but our stairs
You
and
have to restrain your input here to questions, okay? I'd love to hear about the history of Mount
Yes.
Tabor, but I can't let you do that because you're not on the
I get it.
oath,
I
okay?
get it.
So ask your questions and then we'll move on.
I've
Right?
asked all the questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Any other members of
you.
the public who wish to ask questions of this witness? I hear none and see none.
There's one lady.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't see her. Please come forward. Don't just raise your hand. please come forward.
Ma'am, could you state your name?
Sure. Hi, my name is Deborah Hortick, and I live at 30 Boehm Avenue, Mount Tabor. I'm right next door to this couple. My concern is
No, I don't want to hear your concerns.
sorry.
I want to hear your questions.
All right, my question is, since my house is directly next door, I'm the most impacted by this project. Now, my front door does not enter onto the street. You have to walk up the steps and enter my front door on the side. Am I going to walk out my front door and have a big wall right in front of me? That's my question, okay?
How close is the,
They comply with the side
It's
yards.
double we're
How far away from my house is it gonna be?
20 feet from your property line, and you may have maybe another 8-10 feet to the house on your property.
Okay, and I'm sorry, maybe you went over this, but how high is the structure gonna be? Because I'm concerned about the airflow, and I'm concerned about light. I mean, a lot of these houses in Tabor are dark because the houses are so close, the structures are so close. I'm concerned about that, okay? So if,
but he just said he's going to be 28, he's not requesting a side yard setback. If that was all he was coming
can
for.
I see the plans? Can I go a little closer and see the
Sure.
plans?
Why don't you take that in case you want to comment?
So this is here's the ball. This is the property line. So you're right here. So it's probably about 8 feet to your house, plus or minus, maybe. So then there's 20 feet to where the house would be. And at the house, so there's you have 20. That's the line. The line right there is the 10-foot setback. That's where you're allowed to build. So they're building. They set it back double that. So it's 20.1. And then you see the side of the house and the height of the house at that point is 21'6". That's where you're gonna be 21'6", which is well under the allowed.
I can't really visualize what this is gonna look like standing on my front porch. I'm just like a little bit.
Well, and for you, also for you, they are.
You've seen it, you've seen other houses.
They are. They're also removing that shed beside yard. So that would be an open grassy side yard, which would be attractive.
What do you think, Mr. Chair?
Bring one back.
Bring her back?
Sure.
Have a conversation there.
Okay, guys, we can't have a conversation over there that's off the microphone, okay? Any other questions?
That's it, thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other members of the public who have questions for this witness? Nobody? Okay. Do you have any other testimony you'd like to give?
No, thank you.
Are there any members of the public who wish to speak in opposition to this application? In support of this application? I hear none and see none. Someone like to make a recommendation?
Mr. Chairman, taking into consideration everything that's been said, and also testimony of the architect showing what they want to do to this property, and the fact they want to maintain the character of the neighborhood, I'll be in favor of the application and the request for variance.
Whenever we deal with applications in Mount Tabor, it's difficult because of the historic aspect of it. The fact that a lot of the houses are in the right-of-way. They're actually, I mean, we've had residents come who wanted to replace the 2 steps in front of their house and had to get a variance because they were in the road.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know it's always difficult, and we're hoping that you're gonna come through and invite us up to see this house after it's built, okay? Can I have someone frame a resolution?
Sure. Application 1938, Stephen and Sarah Life, 24 Boehm Avenue, Block 52, Lot 2, Zone R3. Recommend granting a C variance to construct addition contrary to Section 430-35, columns 4, 7, 10, and 13.
Second ready.
Any discussion? Nora, call the roll.
Can I make a suggestion before? We
Yes.
And air
always-
conditioning?
We always have, one, the air conditioner is included in the variance.
Right.
And second, that the architectural plans testified to are those plans that will be submitted to the building department.
Add on what Mr. Chadwick just added on.
Second ready.
Any discussion? Nora, call the roll.
Mr. Berkowitz.
Yes.
Mr. Jaskowitz.
Yes.
Mr. Reddy.
Yes.
Mr. Willens.
Yes.
Chairman Irakane.
Yes. Result is the variance is granted. We'll memorialize this at our next meeting, which is in 2 weeks.
Thank you very much.
Good luck. Okay, application 1831, HMAT Associates, major soil moving permit.
Evening, Mr. Chairman, board members, Thomas Malika from the law firm Vogel, Shea, Collins, and Schneider on behalf of the applicant, HMAT Associates, Inc. This is a major soil permit application. The board may recall you granted site plan, subdivision, and use variance approval for your resolution dated January 2019. We probably could have sought the relief we're seeking tonight in connection with that big application that you've already heard. We did not, so we're here tonight, and I have one witness that I intend to call as our expert, the site plan engineer, who can go over what the what the actual soil permit application is for and talk about what kind of material we're importing to the property.
Sir, you raise your right hand. You swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give before the board's true self you got?
Yes.
For the record, you're a licensed engineer?
Yes.
All your licenses are in full force and effect?
Yes.
You've provided testimony before this board as well and was qualified as an expert, correct?
Yes.
All right. You're sworn, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You're sworn as an expert.
You have my name for the record, or?
I'm sorry, state your name.
So yes, Anthony Ficino, Facchino, 54 Horse Hill Road, Cedar Knolls, New Jersey.
Anthony, you have an exhibit board there. Can you introduce that? I'm going to suggest that it perhaps be marked as Exhibit A1 and read out what the title of that plan is, please.
Sure, this is a soil moving plan for a temporary stockpile for Block 768, Lot 3.01. It's dated 10/10/18.
So this was filed some time ago with the township, correct?
That is correct.
And incidentally, Mr. Chairman, I have copies that I can distribute to the board. Ms. Jolie indicated you might want to have copies, so I do have some here.
Okay.
Great.
All we do is recommend to the council, right?
A little bigger than that.
So Anthony, just generally, what are we planning to do here with reference to Exhibit A1?
If you don't mind, I would like to orient the board for a second here. The property that we're talking about is 1100 Edwards Road. It's to our north is the the sewer treatment plant. To our west is the municipal recycling facility. To our south is 280, and to our east is the Whippany River. The site, as you are aware, was approved when I testified for a construction yard and also a retail, a rental office trailer and construction yard for trucks and
I think
construction equipment.
The actual approval was for a truck terminal and parking lot, and then we had the associated trailer for related office activity.
Correct.
So that's the actual approval, and again, that was per the board's January 16, 2019 resolution.
Correct. So what we're here tonight is just to discuss a little bit about the soil movement that's going to be required to obtain the site plan improvements that we requested back then. The site's going to generate approximately 7,800 cubic yards of fill that's going to be required to come on site. That fill material is going to be consistent of recycled glass material, which is going to act as a demarcation layer, because this is a capped landfill, and then on top of that is going to be millings. So we're bringing in millings and recycled glass. The truckloads is going to be approximately 520 truckloads, give and take a few. We were at one point we were thinking about stockpiling it. As you can see on the plan, we have 2 large stockpiles, but I don't think we're going to, depending on our approvals with the DEP and the EPA, we believe we're going to probably just import the soil and spread it and compact it as it comes in instead of making stockpiles there.
So Anthony, quickly then, in summary, we're importing about 7,900 cubic yards of millings, milled asphalt, and recycled glass. So those two materials combined, about 7,900 cubic yards worth of that to perfect the truck terminal and the parking lot surface that we're going to build per the site plan approval that was granted, correct?
Correct, yes.
Does this service the cap that we've talked about?
No, there's already an existing cap
Cap
on the
there.
site. This is just to put material on,
Surface to
drive,
park the car.
park on top of it. That's all this is for.
There were certain requirements of the last approval that you needed to get from EPA, DEP. Have you obtained those yet?
Let me update the board in that regard. We have not obtained the other governmental approvals yet that are required for the application.
So this would be...
So we're still working on it, and I'm gonna say something that I think Anthony can testify to. As far as this major soil movement permit goes, we don't intend to do any work associated with the permit until we have those other governmental approvals.
And this board just recommends, because it's a major, you'd have to get your final from...
We understand that, we understand that. Now, with that timing in mind, we could have done this at a later date, but we were asked to come back to the board to do it now. I guess at one point, about 150 cubic yards of milled asphalt was brought onto the site, and the township noticed that and said, whoa, 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 don't bring anything more on until you deal with this major soil movement permit, okay? So that's why we're here tonight.
And get those approvals.
Yeah, but obviously in the grand scheme of things, those DEP and EPA approvals are still pending, and we need those, and we don't intend to do anything by way of what's happening here tonight, importing material, until we have those approvals.
I want to go back to your stockpiles. Have you abandoned that because of the permitting process or not?
I believe it's gonna be easier to just handle the material one time and bring it in.
Just keep doing it, spread it out as you go.
Spread it out and compact it really nice in lifts as we go, so we don't have to deal with piles. Because to handle the material twice would not make sense. Because all the time this is taken for the DEP approvals, we might as well just wait for all the approvals and then we can do all this.
If the board approves, makes a recommendation to the mayor and council, and they had a condition in there that there's no stockpiles, is that something you can agree to or not?
No. They don't want any stockpile.
I didn't say that.
I'm sorry, if they...
You offered it, and I'm just trying to clear it up.
Yeah.
I think that we ultimately could, Mr. Chadwick. I guess...
You want to keep your options open?
Yeah, because of what the DEP says. I mean, for whatever reason, and I can't right now think of why they would ask us to
You
do
got
this.
stockpiles in here that are around 10 feet high, that's it? 180 to 190, that's...
Yes, correct,
10
10 feet high, yeah, approximately. But they're small stockpiles, they're just 10 feet high.
All right.
Well, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Why would it matter if you can't bring it on until the DEP says yes, okay, you know, okay anyway?
What would it, why wouldn't it, I'm sorry.
You can't, am I right by saying you can't bring it to the site until you get everything okay with the DEP?
Correct. As a practical matter, we don't intend to do anything until we get the DEP approval.
Right, so-
I guess the concern would be is if DEP, for whatever reason, preferred
A stockpile
the
instead
plan
of
with
spread?
that depicted a stockpile. Can't think of a reason why they would, but.
Right.
But we were hoping for a little flexibility, just because we do have that big hurdle to.
It's business, isn't it? I mean, if you all of a sudden there's a source of millions of glass,
We can bring it in.
you bring it in.
Yes. Yeah.
That's all it is, yeah, okay.
The hours of operation are gonna be 6 o'clock to 3 p.m. The traveled roads are gonna be 280 New Road and Edwards Road, which are heavily traveled commercial roads. So there's not gonna be, there's no residents in the area, so I don't anticipate any issues with any of the residents in town. We do have a soil erosion permit that's in place for the project, but like we said, we can't do anything until the DEP gives us the okay.
So I have no further direct questions for Mr. Ficino.
Any questions by the board? Any members of the public have any questions of this witness and the testimony given this evening? I hear none, see none. Is there anything else you want to add?
I just respectfully request that the board either approve or recommend the approval of this major soil movement permit. We've come a long way. We're still trying to perfect the approval that this board was gracious enough to grant and obtain the other governmental approvals that are required. So This is a step in the process, and again, I respectfully request that the board recommend or grant the approval tonight for this permit.
Are there any members of the public who wish to speak in opposition to this application, in support of this application? I hear none and see none. Someone like to make?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'll move that we recommend to the council that the requested soil moving permit be granted.
Subject to- Subject to obtaining the
Well, subject to obtaining the state approvals and subject to the previous resolution. In case number 1831, HMAT Associates, 1100 Edwards Road.
Second, Jaskowitz.
Any discussion? Nora, call the roll.
Mr. Berkowitz.
Yes.
Mr. Jaskowitz.
Yes.
Mr. Reddy.
Yes.
Mr. Willens. Chairman Irakane.
Yes. Result is the request is granted.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and board members.
Let's take a 10-minute break. The next 10-minute break. Joe, you want both cases? You want to set up for the next case?
1928?
Applicant of Rajdahem Temple. We are here to amend a prior approval. We had gotten the approvals for this temple on Littleton Road before and did get signage approved as part of that application. However, when we got back with the design, we had about 48 square feet for each one of the signs approved by this board. We laid out the name of the temple and the size of the letters, and it turned out everything was too small. So we're here to amend that, looking for larger signs. With me is Mr. Gopalshal, who is the principal pastor, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Is he going to
Correct.
provide testimony?
He is going to provide.
Sir, could you raise your right hand? You swear affirm testimony you're about to give before the board's the truth so help you God?
I do.
And for the record, can you spell and state your name?
Gopal, G-O-P-A-L, Shah, S-H-A-H.
And your position there is you're
I'm
the...
a director.
Okay, like the caretaker, do you live there?
No.
Okay.
So, Mr. Shah, you've heard my very brief preamble, but that basically summarizes it. Could you just go into a little more detail as to what it is that the problem was with the originally approved sign?
Yeah, the building, we are putting from ground 30 feet high, the sign. Here. So at the time of the initial approval, we did not pay attention on the square footage of sign. But then we tried from the ground looking up, the letter is too small. So Braj Dham is a 14 letter. So obviously it's office building. So a lot of devotees can find the building because we're not doing touching exterior anything. So we need proper sign saying the Braj Dham temple. And building set up that way that we cannot put it in middle of the building. We have to parapet on the top of the building. We have to put the sign. So ground looking up on Littleton Road, the letter would be like a 2 feet 24 inch, and by 287 east side, the parallel of Route 287, we are proposing 3 feet later because it's 30 feet from the ground. So the devotees driving by on 287 easily visible to them, and safely they can read the sign.
Now, what's the full name of the temple, actually?
It's Radham Vaishnav Temple and Community Center, but we are shorting Radham Temple because Radham alone cannot identify it is temple. So any Hindu members traveling by, they can come and worship to the temple.
So it's just to identify it to the people driving by on 287, because the sign on Littleton Road, you were approved for 48 square feet, and you've modified that, you're looking for 50 square feet. So it's just
Yes, we
small.
tried to fit in that square feet was approved, but it's not working, and putting small letter is not gonna be doing worthwhile doing small letters because it's not visible at all in that 3 feet by 16 feet.
Well, we'll get into the dimensions a little bit with the next witness, who has an exhibit that was provided to the board. I have no further questions for this witness.
Any questions of this witness? Who's your next witness?
Brittany. Architect?
Any members of the public have any questions of this witness? I hear none. See none.
Sure.
I guess I do have a question that Mr. Chadwick raised. What's the color of the sign you're proposing?
The orange color.
And why does it have to be orange?
Well, it's easily, you can read it, and it's a symbolic, it's a holy color for us.
Are there any other similar colors? Or any other colors that are considered holy other than orange?
Red,
Okay.
orange, red.
Thank you. It'll be illuminated?
Yes.
How many hours a day?
During the dawn to dusk, like
You mean dusk to dawn?
dusk to dawn, I'm sorry. And during the day, it's not needed because it's orange, so we don't have to lit up,
And there's no residential anywhere near that?
No.
Any other questions by the board? Any members of the public have any questions of this witness? I hear none, see none.
Could you raise your right hand?
Yes.
You swear affirm the testimony you're about to give before the board is true, so help you God?
Yes.
For the record, can you state and spell your name?
Brittany Klim, Klimm.
And you're the,
I am the architect.
okay, and all your licenses are in full force and effect?
Yes.
And you've provided testimony before boards in the state of
Yeah.
New Jersey, and you've been qualified as
Yeah.
an expert? Okay, thank you.
All right. So,
Ms. Quinn, yes, referring to the exhibit, that was previously provided to the board, correct?
yes, this is dated July 22nd, 2019 for board review. It's sheet A 1.01. There was only one sheet submitted. This is similar to the first sheet that was submitted when we did the application 2 years ago. The difference between this and the original approved signage is that the original approved signage said new sign. It was much shorter, 7 letters. And now this is a much longer sign. The height for the right side, which faces 287, is the same height as the original sign, 3 feet high. And the height of the sign it used to be in this corner, now it is going to be centered. The height of this is actually reduced. It was 3 feet and now it's reducing to 2 feet. In addition, there was 120, the number up there, which is being removed, the 15 square feet being removed. So as you see, when you come down 287, you will see these facades, and you will see the temple name on the top. The articulation of the building is such that there are no continuous horizontal bands like the other office buildings along that street. And so the ideal place to put a sign without blocking windows would be at the top.
Do you know how high that is?
It's 38 feet.
38?
Yes. So we're asking for...
Same height that was approved?
Yes, it's the same height that was approved. We're asking for the number of signs. We're allowed 1 sign per frontage. We're actually reducing our original approval of 5 to 4. The second variance is, the second variance is the height allowed is 25 feet, and we're proposing the 38 feet to be along the top of the existing parapet, not extending above the parapet at all.
Both of those are the 38 feet?
Yes. 38 foot 6, I'm sorry.
Do you know the mechanics of this sign? Is it internally lit?
It will be internally lit channel letters on a raceway. So the raceway allows the electric to run behind it, so you don't have to put a ton of pinholes for each letter. And the third variance that's being asked for is the area, which is the underwriting thing that we're coming for, which is they're allowed to have 150 square feet, and we're proposing 224 square feet. And most of that is based on the length, as well as we have 1 street frontage, but really with 287, in reality we have 2. The other additional signs that are remaining are in the front and rear canopy, the number 120 as a identifying address.
As was the case before, there's no pylon sign or other signage?
Correct. No freestanding signs. This is all of the signage that they're asking for.
So the sign facing Littleton Road is actually smaller than the original approved sign, is that?
It is shorter.
Okay, shorter.
It was originally
Square
3
foot,
feet.
yeah.
It was originally 3 feet by 15 or 16 feet, and it is now 2 feet by 30 feet.
So the major increase is the sign that will be facing 287.
Yes, due to length. The height is the same, and the font will be the same based on the width of the font, and that's how long it winds up being.
Can we get the size of these signs down, because I have three different
Yeah, I was
numbers.
gonna say, that's just-
The one on Littleton Road, how big is that?
Oh.
2 by,
The one on Littleton Road is 60 square feet, 30 feet by 2 feet.
Yeah, that's it.
Is that what you have?
no, is that what?
That's
Says
not-
36.
Okay, I'm reading from another report
Okay.
of mine, so that's 60 square feet.
Correct.
And the
And
other,
that
the other one will be
replaces,
what?
that also replaces the 15 square feet sign that is there right now with 120. That is in that same location.
Okay.
So you've lost the 48 square foot.
We've lost the 48 and we've lost the 15 and we're adding 60. So we are actually net, I think, 3 less square feet than the original front facade. And then along 287, we have 156 square feet. It is 52 feet by 3 feet. Originally, I think it was, the old drawing was 16 feet. It's substantially larger because we have the real text that's going in there. Before it was more of like a placeholder generic signage. And then when they got down to the design, it came up that the letters were not legible. And it's better for people who are moving at a high speed to be able to read the letters than to be straining and causing an accident.
And to that point,
Mhm.
I speed on 287.
Mhm.
So I'm going southbound on 287, and I see the sign,
Mhm.
which is good. Where do I get off to get back to it?
Well, we do not identify that on the building, similar to like, you know, you would have like a rest area with a sign that tells you exactly how to get there. But I would say in today's day and age, most people would look on their cell phone and find the best route to take from there. They could probably get off at the next exit and then pull into I would hope they're not using it while they're driving, but they could.
There's no real direct route.
There may not be a direct route, but they could look up and find the best route back to that now knowing the name.
Yeah, you would end up at
Is there a
Parsippany Road.
specific reason it needs to be 3 versus 2?
Really for the identification, because this is more of a collector road that this is on, and this is facing a major highway. Neither one of them face any residential areas.
So would you say that's more for advertising as opposed to the front, which is more for really someone?
For identification?
Yeah.
I think they're both identification.
You don't think the one facing 287 is more advertising?
It's only going to identify for those who want to attend.
You need a microphone.
Here you go.
A lot of devotees travel on 287. So when they read the sign, they may not come that time. But next time, they'll say, oh, okay, I will visit. So it's identification, not advertise.
Well, it's a form of advertising.
Right. Okay, could be.
That's true. Yeah, you could say all identification is a form of advertising. That's why places have logos.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is there any, I don't know if study's the right word, but regulations that say how big a sign has to be in order to be properly read at 60 miles an hour?
I'm sure there are. I don't know of them off the top of my head. I'm sure there are.
Do you know of anybody who would know that, so we know we got the right size sign?
I would have to consult my client.
I would say it's comparable for
mean, 2
for
feet
the
might be
area.
enough,
If you
maybe
look
2.5
at the design of this building, it's clearly intended to have signage up there. If you look now, you can see there are markings from previous signs.
Yeah, but do you know how big they were?
I do not know personally. Do you?
We've had a number of facade signs, particularly branding signs, and these are bigger than those.
Okay.
I think that's one of the questions that we're asking is, right across the street over here, they put signs up on the corners, on 2 corners. And if you take a look at them, they're significantly less than those. And trying to rationalize why this one should be
3 foot instead of 2 foot.
quite a bit bigger.
Well, it is the same height as the original approved.
Well, I think we're gonna go around and around here, Mr.
Yeah, why don't I, with your permission, Mr. Chairman, if I could just have a couple of minutes to
Sure.
consult with my client.
Sure.
The Watergate one, huh? Was it 2 feet high?
Yeah.
It's a square footage issue, but the height.
Yeah,
Why does the sign choose
but
it?
the sign should probably be the same though, too.
They wanna recruit.
Well, obviously.
I mean, the one you guys approved, I ain't like it all, the guy with the hardware store, 287, huge, how long is it, like 20 feet of metal? 6 months ago? The guy came in, he says it's the only open space on that side of the highway where there aren't trees. Do you remember that? Big, long time, National Plumbing Supply or something.
Yeah, it was, on 2, yeah.
I forget how long.
That was like a year ago, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for that opportunity. After consultation with my clients, we've done some very quick back of the envelope but accurate calculations regarding what a sign would be with 2.5-foot letters. We estimated it would be 36 feet long for 90 square feet, which would be a significant reduction.
Plus
Our
the
concern
plus
is...
the 60 and you meet the size requirement. Is that right?
That's
So you have 90 square feet on the,
That's
on
right.
the 287 side?
That's right, but I've got those canopy letters still that are holdovers. They're 4
square foot.
4-foot square.
Yeah.
John, you go with that?
I think it makes sense.
Okay.
I think there's a, it's not like I think we're just jerking around here. I think it's got a little too big.
We recognized the comments and heard the comments from the board. So, we would amend the application to reflect that dimensional change. We would revise the plan accordingly.
So it'd be 2.5-foot letters on 90 square foot.
90 square foot, yes.
And still 2 foot 60, right?
And
2.5 foot.
On the 287 side.
And then 2
still
foot
the
60.
Still 2
2
foot
foot,
on the
yeah.
Littleton side, okay.
We're good now?
I think we're good.
Board is good?
Yep.
It's under-
Any members of the public have any
Close,
questions?
compromises.
Any questions on the latest testimony?
Just one more, just for my edification. So I'm thinking signage, I'm thinking going down the road, and so we're gonna have an orange sign, right? Which will be definitely unique and stand out, and that's good from your perspective because it's one of the religious colors that identify. My only concern is through the night, it's gonna be on all the dark hours, right? Is it a distraction of any kind to drivers? And that would be my only concern with the brightness of the sign for drivers on 287. Are they going to have any distraction issue? I don't know if anybody can testify that, but I would have a little bit of concern about that. It's a question I can't answer. I don't know if anybody else.
How far is it from 287?
Pardon me?
How far is the,
Yeah,
from
well, I guess that's
287?
it. How far is it?
Not very far.
It's almost right on 287, is it not?
But it's only lit
It's
up
pretty
during
close
the
to
night, during the
287,
day.
but it faces directly 287. The building is angled,
Yeah, it's not.
so it's not straight on as you're driving south.
It's also about the same height as the travel service.
A little bit higher, just
Yeah,
a
not
little
much.
bit higher.
Do
I can-
you, no, is this gonna be LED?
I can answer this question for a moment. I would say that it's going to be no more offensive than any other building sign you see from the road, from the highway. Up 287, along 80, you see lots of different signs. I mean, 287 and 80 are pretty limited access, but on other highways that have more access points and more properties that abut, you see them. You see the Sheridan over here. You see there's plenty of properties. You see the building sign in the night, and you're not blinded. So I would say that the signage company will have a safe wattage so that they're not blinding. You also won't be able to read the letters if they're that bright. What was your question, Mr. Chowder?
No, you answered.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, I don't have the distance to the highway, Mr. Williams.
Oh, you asked if it was going to be LED. I would assume so. That's the current trend. No.
Any other witnesses?
No further direct testimony.
Are there any members of the public who wish to speak in opposition to this application, in support of this application? I hear none, see none. I think we've gotten it to the point where we're happy with the numbers.
Yeah.
Someone like to frame a resolution?
Yeah, application 19:28, Vajdaham Temple, 120 Littleton Road, block 420, lot 4. Recommend granting a C variance to install the signs at the amended numbers.
Second ready.
Any discussion? Nora, call the roll.
Mr. Berkowitz.
Yes.
Mr. Jaskowitz.
Yes.
Mr. Reddy.
Yes.
Mr. Willens. Chairman Araki.
Yes. Result is variance is granted.
Thank you, everyone.
Memorialize this in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let's call case 19:18.
Good evening once again, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Joseph O'Neill here on behalf of the applicant Pacific Outdoor Advertising. This is for a electronic billboard at 7 Enton Road. We do have a couple of witnesses and exhibits to get through. With your permission, I'd like to call my first witness, Mr. Joe Jacobs.
So you raise your right hand. You swear affirm testimony you're about to give before the board is true, so help you God?
I do.
And for the record, can you state and spell your name?
Joseph, Joseph, Jacobs, Jacobs.
And your testimony will be factual?
Yes.
And you're the owner of the...
I'm the owner of the billboard company.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Mr. Jacobs, how long have you been in the billboard business?
I've been in the billboard business for approximately 30 years.
Now, you operate a number of billboards across New Jersey and other places, is that true?
All throughout New Jersey and in other states as well.
Now, I wonder if you could just describe for us what it is you're proposing here.
Yes, what I'm proposing, matter of fact, if we could have those posters marked, I can go through it.
If I could just have 1 second, Mr. Chairman.
As we're doing that, just as some general background, with respect to the digital billboard that's being proposed, the way that digital billboards operate today, every 8 seconds, there's a new ad or new public service announcement that's placed on the board. There's no flashing, there's no, it's like a TV, it's like a static board that gets changed every 8 seconds. So there's no streaming, there's no flashing, there's nothing like that. And what I try to do, and what I do in every town that I go in, there's 3 parts to a digital billboard. One, of course, is the advertising. The second component is the emergency component. Amber alerts, silver alerts, and things that are particular to the town. For example, if a child's lost, it can go on the billboard immediately. If there's any type of emergency in your town, it can go on the billboard immediately. Digital billboards are used more frequently now by the FBI, by the U.S. Marshal. They serve a tremendous purpose. And in addition to that, the other thing I do, when space is available, I'll promote the town. If there are special events that you have that you think are important, I can place those on the billboard as well. And I do that to try to be a good neighbor, and I do that because things that are important to the town are important to me entering into the town.
About how many slots are there of advertisements throughout this?
There's 8 slots.
And how fast does the message change?
It changes every 8 seconds. And I've received the New Jersey Department of Transportation permit and approval to do a digital billboard at this location.
So you'll have these advertisements going by every 8 seconds. God forbid a kid is taken, the cops alert you?
No, I would work that out with, if your police department is the proper entity, it all depends on the town. If you have an emergency manager or chief of police, we would work that out directly with them. So, for example, if a kid's lost,
Right.
immediately, once we get the picture, it goes on the board immediately. And I don't care if we're sold out on the board, if you have an emergency, it goes on the board immediately, no matter what.
Does it keep rotating with the 8 seconds?
With emergencies that are dire, no, the emergency would go up.
It'd stay.
Yes, for some period of time, particularly if it's something that just happened.
Right.
If a kid is lost, you're going to see it up there all the time.
So what I've done, Mr. Jacobs, is I've marked these exhibits that you put down here. The first at 7 Enton Road shows the existing highway looking towards the subject property. You can use that easel on your right and put that up so everybody can see that. Just describe, you took these pictures, correct?
Yes, I did. I used it. I got them off of Google Earth.
Oh, okay.
And where you see the building, I don't know if everyone can see it, but the building on the left side, the billboard would be very close to the building, and the faces would be oriented to the highway. So they wouldn't show to any residential zone or anything like that. They would show solely to the road. It's a V shaped. So if you picture the board here and a V this way, oriented toward this road, oriented toward that road. So no one in any residential zone could see these billboards, only people traveling on the road. And you can see the buffer on the other side, which is an industrial zone. And
Okay, why don't we, maybe you can give that to Mr. Reddy there on the end, and we'll go to A2, so they can get a little better look at that, if you don't mind, Mr. Reddy.
yes.
A2 is an
A2 shows an aerial of the site. 7 Eton Road is marked here. The billboard would be right here, and it would be a V so that it shows going north, it shows to that side, and on the other side would be a static, which would be used primarily on premise, which would be directed toward the south travel area on the highway.
You don't have a rendering with anything superimposed on what it would actually look like?
The sign.
The sign?
No, I don't.
Why? We do have some exhibits showing.
There are some exhibits that will give a better idea when the experts testify, but it's a V shape. It would show solely to the highway.
If the site plan shows the V shape so that it would be visible to houses, we could just open it up a
That's
little.
correct. And I can tell you.
I think that's the case.
I can tell you, it absolutely will not show to any homes at all.
We'll have an exhibit about that.
Yes.
Now, what would happen if you had to open it up to 90 degrees?
We have a lot of.
Difficult for your view sheds at 90 degrees.
Well, I don't know about 90 degrees. I don't think we could do 90
Why don't
degrees.
we wait until
We can leave that question for the next one. I think that would be.
But I can absolutely make the representation that this billboard would not be visible to a residential.
I don't want to interrupt you, Direct. You have other things you want to show?
Not with this witness.
No, that's.
Can I ask you a question about the size of this billboard?
Yes.
There's the standard one we see on the highway is 672. This one is 960.
Yes, there's two types. There's the 672 and the 960.
And the reason for the 960 versus 672? We got to. I'm just going to comment. There's a
No,
straight highway. We could see this thing from Morris Plains.
It's bigger, it's clearer, and I can make this representation as well, that if the board were inclined to grant an approval, I would accept a condition that reduces the size of the board to the 672.
That's That's the only question I had at the moment.
Okay. So I would acquiesce and reduce the size of the structure to 672.
Now, you're only proposing the digital to be visible from one direction?
Yes.
Why?
Because I was not able to get a permit on the other side for a digital permit.
Did they give you a reason?
Yeah. There's a ramping issue with the state. The state would not give me a permit for that. That other side would only be an accommodation for businesses that are located on the premises to use. I wouldn't be able to advertise on that side of the structure. I'm doing it as an accommodation to the landlord and the businesses that are there for their use. I'm not putting up any ads other than.
So on that sign is going to be the tenants in the building it's in front of?
Yes, correct.
Was that part of your DOT approval?
Excuse me?
Did they restrict that?
Yeah, they restricted me
Because
to
of
the
ramp length.
The only approval I have from DOT is for the digital face heading north.
What other digital signs do you have in the area that we can be aware of?
I've built digital signs in Secaucus. I've built digital signs in Rochelle Park. I've built digital signs down in the southern part of the state. I just got a digital approval on Route 4 in Englewood. I have digital signs in Pennsylvania and different states as well.
The ones, at least the ones in New Jersey, what sizes are those?
The one I just built in Secaucus is a 16 by 60. The one that I built in Rochelle Park is 1448. So when the gentleman asked about the size, 672, that's the size that I just built in Rochelle Park, and I just built the larger one, the 960, in Secaucus.
And which roads are they on?
They both just went up within the past 35 days. One is on Route 3, the other's on Route 17.
And did I hear you correctly in saying that the only advertising being done is by the occupants in the building it's on?
On the static face, that's correct. The digital face gives me the flexibility to advertise. It gives me the ability to do emergencies. It gives me the ability to do public service for the town.
So the digital face is facing highway?
It's
facing northbound traffic.
Yeah, it's the left hand. It's the left hand read
And be on anyone.
that you would see if you were traveling north on 287.
I'm going south, I see nothing.
Excuse me?
I'm
No,
going
you'll
south,
see.
I
You'll just see a normal billboard with a message up there of some sort.
Yeah.
And that was the DOT permit. There's some basic standards that New Jersey DOT has on where you can place these billboards. One of the standards for a digital is
There-
1,000 feet from the end of the ramp.
It's a digital can't be within 3,000 feet of another digital or a
Right.
digital permit, and it's got to be 1,000 feet away from any other permit. It's got to be 500 feet from a ramp.
I think it's more than that, but whatever it is, I think that's why you couldn't have both sides.
Correct.
And weren't there a number of other sites in town here that were approved for this type of signage?
I can make this representation that this is the only permit on Route 287 in Parsippany. This is the only acceptable location that DOT has approved in this town.
DOT's approved.
Yes. Without DOT, you can't do a billboard.
And how do we know, other than from what you have, you going to present anybody else that's going to verify that there's no residential?
We have a specific exhibit for that, Mr. Shoskowitz.
Thank you.
And again, the last point I want to emphasize again, emergencies would go up anytime, and as long as there's vacancy, I would make space available for the town to use to promote public service stuff.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobs. I have no further questions for this witness yet.
The DOT permit expired on May 15th, so we suggest that you renew it?
No, it has been.
It has been renewed?
It has been renewed,
Okay.
yes.
Any members of the public have any questions of this witness and the testimony given? Please come forward.
Could you state your name for the record, ma'am?
My name is Deborah Lovett, Lovett.
And where do you live?
8 Westminster Drive, Parsippany.
Thank you, ma'am.
I have questions. You said the sign would be, it's going to be visible from 287 North and 287 South. But one side's static. Which way is that static side going to be facing?
The static side would be facing traffic heading south on 287.
And it would be LED?
Yes.
And the side facing northbound 287 would be the sign that rotated every 8 seconds?
That's correct.
Are you aware that there is already a DOT sign in just slightly south of this location
Yes, I am.
that does Amber Alerts and other things already?
They would not, they don't do emergencies that go as far as what I'm proposing to do. For example, if a kid is lost in your town, they're not going to put that on their board. I'm going to put it on my board.
Okay, I live at 8 Westminster Drive. We have a 2-story house. I can tell you that at 75 feet, I will have this thing shining in my window 24/7, especially after the leaves fall from the trees. I can guarantee you that. I can also guarantee you that people on Parsippany Road, residential areas.
Excuse me, you have to ask questions.
Okay. Do you take into account the height of your sign versus how far it can be seen by residential customers?
Absolutely.
And in your findings, you did not find that a sign 75 feet high would be visible at great distances?
With everything that we conducted, we do not believe that these signs would be visible by residential anywhere in town.
There's going to be another witness that's going to delve into that issue a lot clearer, so I think you'll have a better idea, you know, where the viewpoints are, and then you can ask those specific questions.
And just to go a step further, I just built a sign in Rochelle Park that goes up 85 feet in the air. And it's slightly similar, except this is even more extreme in this town, and the residents can't see that sign either. And that's a higher sign, that's 85 feet.
7 Engine Road is a 3-story building, and they're proposing that this sign would now be double the size of this building.
Well, the trees are very high on Etna Road, so it goes up not much more than the tree line. It goes right over the tree line.
So it'll be visible even in the summer,
Would the sign be visible? Yes.
because it'll be above the tree line.
Yeah.
Chairman, could I ask where on that rendering her home would be?
Doesn't show.
But is it's on the, so looking at it, it's on the right-hand side somewhere?
Where is your house?
No.
This is 287 southbound,
This is going north.
so this is northbound.
The little white square in the upper left-hand corner is the building that he's going
7
to put this.
Engine Road. So the Hindu temple is here, Vreeland Tire, or what used to be Vreeland Tyler is here, East Halsey's here, my house is right here.
Okay, so you're gonna be on the right-hand side of that picture all the way up?
Yes.
You
Okay.
have, between your house and this property, you have Jefferson Road.
Yes.
You have
Is that Halsey, like-
along quite a distance along Halsey Road.
And they're all 2-story buildings.
I understand that, but you've got to be a mile away, don't you?
1/2 mile.
How much?
1/2.
1/2 mile. You got to be a half mile away.
Mm-hmm.
Please don't say anything more. Thank you. You got to be a good half mile away, and you've got a lot of industry between you and that, you and your house that would. Well, I'm not going to testify anymore.
I just want to add one thing. Also on that side, the lights on the face for southbound traffic would go off at midnight, but the studies we conducted, no residential area can see either face.
You're gonna shut the lights off on the static board?
The lights would go off at midnight.
Okay.
Why does it have to be 75 feet tall?
The trees are over 50 feet high. You wouldn't be able to see the board otherwise.
And why do we need to have if the current variance, the current zoning things are 15 feet, 10 feet tall by 15 feet wide, 45 feet high, we are almost doubling, you're asking for a variance, that's almost double the it's 4.5 times if you do it by square area.
You don't have to answer that, Mr. Jacob.
4.5 times. That's a substantial.
No more testimony, please. Questions? Please don't ask, let me remind you one more time, okay? You have to ask questions. I'll give you a chance to make testimony later on. Right now, it's just questions.
I'm done with questions now.
Thank you. Any other members of the public who wish to ask questions of this witness?
My name is Anthony Lovett, Lovett, 8 Westminster Drive. I have at least one question. You mentioned that the emergency bulletins would be on your board. And you did mention that the state also does those. And I have a smartphone, and I will tell you, in the past 3 weeks...
Please don't testify. You got to ask a question.
All right, my question is, did you also realize that cell phones are connected to emergency services as well? So therefore, you don't really need your... I don't know why, but...
Well, sir, I can respond to your question. If an emergency goes up on this billboard that has the possibility of helping someone or saving someone, then I would do it every single time.
But wouldn't that only be helping the cars that are driving northbound on 287?
You're talking about people who see it.
Yeah.
If they see it, it resonates, and it's already proven that emergencies placed on digital billboards have already saved lives. They've already helped people. They aid in emergencies.
Well,
and that's why the FBI uses them. That's why the U.S. Marshal uses them. That's why they're used by all law enforcement agencies today.
And they all, and are you aware also too that the FBI uses cell phones? Like my cell phone is connected to the Parsippany Police, so I get emergency calls from them.
Please don't testify.
I'm trying to make a point.
Ask a question.
I am asking a question.
No, you're not. You're testifying, and that's not permitted at this point in this procedure. Okay. Thank you. Any other members of the public who wish to ask questions of this witness? Ask questions. I hear none and see none.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Do you have another witness?
I do.
Raise your right hand. You swear affirm testimony you're about to give before the board is true, so help you God?
I do.
For the record, can you state and spell your name?
Sure. Tiago Duarte, D-U-A-R-T-E, Principal of Dynamic Engineering.
And you're an engineer. All your licenses are in full force and effect?
Yes.
And you've been qualified either before this board or other boards in the state of New Jersey?
Other boards in the state, yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Duarte, I wonder if referring to the, is that a new exhibit?
No, it's the aerial map from the site plan set that was submitted with the application.
All right. That was in color it was submitted?
Yes. Should be.
Why don't you just go ahead and orient us then?
Yeah, so the subject application before you tonight is, it's located at 7 Ensign Road, block 202, lot 9.03. It's a 364,000 square foot lot, currently developed with a office building and off-street parking areas.
The property is located directly adjacent to Route 287 on the east side. On the west side, you have Enton Road. To the north, you have commercial uses, and to the south, you have the municipal boundary with the township of Hanover. And the subject application is to construct the billboard sign in question on the east side of the existing building. It's a two-story office building, and the sign's going to be located pretty much at the northeastern corner of that building. Site plan orients it a little better.
Before you leave that map, specifically then, on that map, where's the proposed site? I want to make sure I understand.
It's the northeast corner of the building, so
Okay, that's what-
the very right side.
And so the parking lot's right across from the proposed site? Okay.
It's between an existing bay of parking and the building. Yeah. The sign is located 2 foot off of the property line, and that's a function of you want the sign to be as close to the right of way or
Off of the property line of the current building?
off of the site
Right
property
away
line.
287.
Right away, 287.
Right away 287.
And that building is how high now?
That building is 46 feet.
And the sign's going to be 75 feet high?
Correct. Overall height.
Almost double the height of the building?
Would we lower the sign given the reduction in the size?
Question. That's where it's going. That will be lowering the height? If we
I
have-
assume you're gonna use the bottom edge and just drop it down.
Correct. Yeah, well, we would maintain the overall height at 75 feet with the reduction in area.
Well, your bottom edge is controlled.
We're measuring to the top of the sign.
But if we reduce the size of the sign, the bottom edge will control.
Well,
Yeah. Just-
gotcha.
You answered
Oh,
it.
clearance. The clearance, sorry, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
So anyway, onto the site plan, if you can orient us where we're going with that.
So sheet 4 of the site plan, and it zooms in on the building area, and specifically the parking bank between the building and the 287 right-of-way. That's where the sign will be located. Like I mentioned, it's going to be 2 feet from that right-of-way line, and that's a function of being as close to the right-of-way as possible, while for enhanced visibility on 287, which is where the target vehicles are located, will be traveling. As mentioned, the south face will be the LED sign face, and the north face will be the static face. So
And
south being
what's the dynamics of while we're talking about the face? How does the illumination work, and does it change over time?
Sure. So the LED portion of the sign is made up of modules. The modules consist of 3 diodes, your red, blue, and green. And when those diodes illuminate in different fashions, that's what generates the sign image that's displayed. Very similar to a cell phone, although on a much larger scale. The way the diodes work is they're almost in encasement. So there's louvers above and on the sides, and the purpose that serves is to directionalize those diodes in that image, so that really the best and clearest image is directly perpendicular to the sign face, and the levels of the illumination will vary throughout the day. It's automatically adjusted so that in the daytime the sign is brighter, because it needs to be brighter to project that image outward, and at night it'll automatically dim down to based on ambient conditions, and it does follow the industry standard by the Outdoor Advertising Association of America, and they set forth standards for similar signs, and that standard is 0.3 foot candles above ambient light at a distance that is a function of the sign face. In this case, with the reduced sign face area to 672 you're looking at the maximum of that 0.3 foot candle limit being approximately 250 feet from the sign face.
So what does that exactly mean? That light will only go 250 feet off of where it stands?
It'll only alter the ambient conditions within a parabola around that face.
So you're testifying that these people who are concerned, and they live, let's say, a half a mile away, that cannot affect their sight line or whatever you want to call it. They will not see any, at 10 o'clock at night, they're going to look out their window and they won't see a bright shining anything?
I'm saying it will not impact them negatively. I'm not familiar with the topography on the east side of 287. I don't know if there's any valleys or hills that could change in relation to our subject site. So I can't testify to the fact of what trees exist out there, what buildings, what obstructions. But I can say that if they can see it, it would not be an impactful. Just like you can go outside and you can see a street light down the block, or a sign on a building that's quite a distance away.
You're indicating that the amount of light that's being thrown off by this sign, a half a mile from there in a residential neighborhood, is not going to be negatively impacted, considering there are other lights in the neighborhood or other businesses that have lights within that half mile distance.
Yes, any street light that's closer than half mile that the sign is away from you will have a more impact to the observer. So what I'm saying is, yes, that sign is not going to impact versus the street lights, the other signage in that area.
Well, we've got the site plan up. Let's run through the variances real quick. They're all locational for placement of the signage, especially given its proximity to the highway. It's all based upon the distance to the easement, isn't that right?
To the
roadway
setback line, yes, to the right of way. So the sign base is 2 feet from the property line where 50 feet is required for the rear yard. And the sign base itself is 5 feet away from the property line where, again, 50 feet is required.
I guess I'm just a little slow tonight. Can you help me up there, just show me precisely?
Yeah, so, I mean, here's the sign, located at the northeast corner of that building.
Got it.
Unfortunately, this still shows the back-to-back sign, as we
But now we're already
testified
talking
to.
about V signs.
We're going to be V sign. The setback to that right-of-way line will be the same. The right-of-way is this bold line type, running north to south along the bottom of the page, and that sign is located 5 feet from that right-of-way line, the sign face itself.
What is the V angle that you're going to show on a revised plan?
I would not go with the 90 degree.
Maybe we should wait for John McDonough to go through his testimony so we don't go through all kinds of numbers.
But I will say that typically you'd go to a 20 or 30 foot spread. You wouldn't do a 90 degree. Because that would negatively impact
That comment was
visibility.
just to what if, and we're not going there yet.
Other variances are the overall height. Again, 75 feet is proposed.
As modified.
As modified.
We're going to get through this.
And the sign area as well. 64 square feet are permitted in the zone, where we are proposing 672 on each side of the sign.
This is still a 4 or 5 colors? What is it, 4 or 5 colors out of this sign? We'll leave that for John.
Yeah.
We do have a exhibit, though, showing that parabola of impact that you were talking about.
Yeah, we could provide that. I don't have it for the 672 foot sign. So it would be that's the cone of vision.
This would be
Maybe I can help out with this light impact from this sign. When they say it, it's like if you put a light bulb on a pole a half a mile from your house and turn it on, and there's nothing in between, you're gonna see it. That isn't what they're talking about. They're talking about if you measure light in a certain location and it's measuring, I thought they were measuring the LEDs and nits, not.
The sign face itself, but the illumination and beyond that, we converted over to
Converted them
foot
over.
panels.
All right. Everybody know what nits are?
Things you get in your hair, aren't they?
But, so,
I listened to
we'll wait till you're done and then I'll answer.
And I guess just one more thing on the lighting.
Yeah, we got off the point. It just basically, you don't add to it at a certain distance.
Right. That.
You can see it, but you don't add.
It's not gonna add any lighting to those properties.
Right.
The industry standard is also established based on a full white board, which will never be the case because any board is going to have some sort of darkness to provide letters or an image or a logo. So it is a conservative industry standard from the beginning, and that's measured at a daytime maximum. So at night, it's further reduced from that 100% illumination during the day.
Why don't we show Exhibit A3? Mark that for me, if you could, Diego. This was prepared by your office?
Yes.
This is a representation of the,
It's exhibit entitled Cone Vision Exhibit with date of May 29th, 2019. And what this is displaying is the cone of vision. Basically, as you're driving behind the wheel of your car, you have what's called a 40-degree cone of vision, and that's everything that you can see without taking your eyes off looking straight ahead of you. And what we focus on for the cone of vision is the 20-degree, or your right read or your left read, depending on the direction you're traveling in. So we developed the cone of vision, assuming that you can see the sign for 1,000 feet. Thank you. And it for 1,000 feet, and then based on the speed of the roadway, we determine how many seconds the sign is visible to traffic traveling by the site. So for the southbound direction, I mean, the sign's visible for approximately 7 to 13 seconds, and in the northbound direction, it's about 5 to 11 seconds that's visible. And again, by providing that sign as close to the roadway as possible, you're keeping it within that 20-degree cone of vision, again, to increase the visibility of that sign.
thank you. I have no further questions for this witness.
Board, any questions?
Yeah, so is that going to be all the testimony when it comes to the effect of the lighting on a home in the distance?
Yes.
Okay, so could I ask John, are you comfortable in the sense that these people that live a half a mile away will not be affected negatively with, although they might see it there, it's not going to affect them negatively? Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I would. I with one stipulation, you quoted the sign organization. I never can get it right. Is your client willing to abide by their recommendations in terms of operation and intensity of lighting?
Yes.
You're comfortable? And the answer is yes. Okay. Just by way, I was the expert on that Supreme Court case that said you can't discriminate against digital
John,
lighting.
what's the name of that standard? OAA?
Three A's. Yeah.
OAA.
It's the Outdoor Advertising Association of America.
Okay, thank you.
You were involved in a Supreme Court case on this? Is that what you said?
Not this.
Okay.
More in terms of discrimination between digital and static.
Oh, okay. Right. Any members of the public have any questions of this witness?
I think I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, sir.
I don't know if you're the one to answer it, but is there any backlight from the light that's going to be go to 287 that's going to affect Jacksonville Drive?
No, and actually with the V shape, it's further directionalizing any light to the 287. So there's no real lighting going in the
I forgot
westerly
to ask, how are you
direction.
going to light up the static side?
Yeah, just remember that. So what would proposes uplighting. Depending on the sign base, the sign base size will determine the number of lights. Typically, it's 4 for a sign of 672 square feet, and I believe the current standard is LED uplighting, and that gives better uniformity, which in the past when
No
you
Halogen, LEDs.
LEDs.
So you can stipulate that? Okay.
Thank you, Diego.
Next witness?
The halogen bounces off the LEDs, don't.
Sir, you raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm testimony you're about to give before the board is the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
For the record, can you state and spell your name?
Sure. Hi, everyone. John McDonough, McDonough.
And your testimony will be?
Licensed professional planner, state of New Jersey.
And you've been sworn before this board before?
Once or twice.
All right. Mr. Chairman, he's been involved.
Immediate Mr. McDonough. You are familiar with the application that is before the board this evening?
Yes.
Had an opportunity to examine the local ordinances and master plan?
Yes, I have.
I wonder if you can give us your testimony comparing this application to those documents and your findings.
We're not going to get away without pictures, sorry. So we're going to enter
not
some
before.
visuals for the board. These may have been entered as part of the application, but I think we'll use them to just walk through the suitability of the site, the relationship of this site to the surrounding land use context, which is always important when we're dealing with this particular, I'll say, specialized form of land use.
A4.
Email?
Yes, please.
A4 for the record. And I'll also point out as A4 is being handed out, I don't know if it needs to be marked, but we did issue a planning report as part of this.
That's part of the application.
You do? Okay. No. Most of it came to the plan. You can share the rest.
And for the record, the report was dated May 28th, 2019. So as everyone has A4, the first sheet shows the subject property outlined in yellow. It's a single tax lot, block 202, lot 9.3, which you can see has two very significant things from a geometric standpoint right off the bat. It is an elongated shaped piece of property. It is over 1,500 feet of frontage along Route 287. So not only do we have extensive frontage, we have extensive frontage along a freeway, which is where this land use is supposed to be. This is a land use that is targeted at the motoring public, and you'll hear as I go through the benefits. I think the member of the public had a very good question. I've heard board members ask it as well. Everything that a billboard does, you can get right here on one of your phones. So why do we need them? The answer is it's targeted at the motoring public when we're not supposed to be looking at our phones. So this is a land use that is adjacent to a 10-lane highway, sees thousands, hundreds of thousands of vehicles every day. That's its targeted audience, and we always try to look for a sweet spot, I'll call it, where there's a balance between hitting the target market, which is the motoring public, and not hitting the other people in the area, homes and other residential uses in the general vicinity. And what's nice about this application is it's sort of located in the middle of nowhere in terms of from a residential impact. We heard from a interested party. It's actually 4,000 linear feet away, almost a mile away as the crow flies. Separated by a pretty extensive industrial campus or non-residential district. So we're not looking at an extensive neighborhood that this land use will immediately face. I was involved with a case up in Englewood where they challenged a billboard ordinance that had a separation requirement of 1,000 feet away from residential uses. In that particular case, the board can give this whatever weight they want to give it. The judge in that case said anything over 600 feet has no visual impact. and the ordinance was changed. Here we're looking at something that's 4 or 5 or even more times further away than that. So with distance, visual impact diminishes. And there's actually another case out there called the Sunrise case. It comes out of Florham Park. In that particular case, the judge said visibility alone is not a basis for denial of a variance application. Just because you see something doesn't mean it has a negative impact. You can see a lighthouse from miles away, and that doesn't have a negative visual impact. The key is visual impact. So visual impact versus visibility are the key things for an application to consider. As we move further away, more visual stimulation or saturation in the area diminishes the impact of that particular structure. So that's another thing we give the board with respect to this particular application and this location here. Remote from residential. We do have residences on the Jacksonville Drive side, on the other side of Enton Road, but they are over 300 feet away, and they are facing the back of the sign, not the front of the sign. So the nose of the sign, if you will, the angle point of the sign, actually faces 287, and the people on Jacksonville Road that are the closest residential uses impacted actually see the back of the sign. So it's not directed at those residential uses. Flipping over to the second sheet, again, we're looking at a developed piece of property. You get a sense of the linear shape. It's mostly a parking lot. That is the immediately impacted land use associated with this particular sign. There's an office building there now. I like the fact that the board is going by the building itself, because then the building becomes a buffer that masks the base of the sign and the overall visual impact of the sign from the homes that are behind it. And again, it makes it so that it doesn't stand out by itself in the overall surrounding landscape. You can see the overall size of 287 here and those 10 lanes of traffic. Again, this is a land use that wants to be, and that our state policies say needs to be, along highways and along freeways. Your own ordinances here encourage that these billboards, or actually mandate that these billboards go along highways as well. We'll get into that in a little bit. Third page looks at a color-coded GIS mapping of surrounding land uses. Again, the immediate area is either red, which is commercial land use, or gray, which is industrial land use. The only residential uses, again, the gold color, are behind the subject sign. Fourth page shows the reason why we're here. We're in the SED3 zone. I went through your ordinances, and it's not actually online embedded in the ordinances, but your planner pointed it out in his review that there are zones that do now allow for this particular land use. And I noticed an ordinance that was introduced in 2014 that calls out 3 or 4 zones here in town where the billboard type use would be allowed, and there's about 10 or 12 different types of conditions that would be hooked to it. Again, it's not a permitted conditional use. These are more bulk requirements. This application essentially hits, I'll say, almost every one of them. There's a few that it doesn't hit, and we'll talk about that. But the zones where this would be allowed include the POD zone. PO zone is actually right outside this window. It's where the business campus is located, and further down where the Whole Foods is going, basically targeting Route 287. Another example is along Route 280. That's the LIW5 zone, which is mostly industrial, and again, that's a pocket along 280. Along Route 80, I think that's where I'm seeing this O2 zone, and pockets along Route 80 where that O2 zone would go. This zone, although it doesn't particularly or specifically allow for billboard use, has many of the attributes in this particular site, has many of the physical qualities where this land use would be permitted if it were located right across the street here in the POD zone. And we'll get into that in a little bit. And then finally, the last page is just a ground shot to show the physical characteristic of the area, which is a parking lot. Nice buffering. Those trees in the background are generally 100 feet tall. This is a sign that's going to be 75 feet tall, so it's not going to create a skyline. It's going to blend with the skyline that's already there, and again, sort of follow the surrounding landscape that wraps around the property. With respect to the relief that the applicant needs, we're looking at 2 D variances here. We've got the D1 for the use. We've got the D6 for the height. As you just heard through our engineer, The use is not allowed in the SED3, and the height maximum allowed is 45 feet in the SED3 zone, which is also the maximum allowable height that's recommended or mandated for billboards in those other zones that I just spoke about. And for the record, the section of the ordinance where these criteria are laid out are 430-186E, as in Edward. And again, there are about a dozen or so of those. In terms of compatibility with that ordinance, the lot area here would comply. The lot frontage, being along a freeway, would comply. 2 principal uses are allowed, so this use is allowed to co-locate on a site where there is another principal use without needing a use variance. So the D1 is not for 2 principal uses on one particular lot. Well, technically it is, because we're in the SED3 zone where those 2 uses are not allowed, but again, by a comparison standpoint, it would not be required. The number of LED faces is maximum allowed 1. That's what we have here as well. 1 static, 1 LED. The setbacks don't comply. The minimum setback would be 20 feet. The maximum is 60 feet. But we think the positioning of this, where the building is located, provides a better zoning alternative, and we'll get a little bit more into that as we go forward. The setback from residential is required to be 100 feet. That's met here. The sign face maximum area is 672 square feet. We landed at that tonight, correct? So we're complying with that. The height maximum allowed is 45 feet. We're at 75 feet, but again, we think this is a better alternative in terms of blending with the roadway and hitting that target market, and also considering the landscape that's around it. In terms of the configuration of the sign, I think we can stipulate for the record, the ordinance says no pop-outs, no animation. This is not going to have the waving flag, no explosions, no rolling, no scrolling. This is a static image that changes instantaneously every 8 seconds. And then also to have some buffering. I'm sure the applicant would stipulate to putting some landscaping around the base of the sign to the extent that it is practical, but there is also some built-in landscaping to the fact that we are on an office campus and buffered by a building that is, and other structures that are already there. With that, we turn to the positive criteria, and when we look at this particular land use, it's pretty well documented at this stage. We put it in our report. The big 3 that this land use does is, number 1, free speech. We know it's a mechanism of constitutional free speech. It's actually United States Supreme Court cases that talk to that. Both commercial free speech and non-commercial free speech. Commercial, it benefits the companies we invest in, companies we work for, the companies we work with, and again, there's actually state policies that recognize that this land use stimulates economic development, so that's a positive. This is a land use that also benefits inherently beneficial uses like churches and hospitals and higher education facilities. I'm not saying it's an inherently beneficial use, but I am pointing out that it does benefit beneficial things, such as, again, a church, a school, a hospital. And non-commercial free speech, again, that's something that the courts have found as well. This is a mechanism or an instrument in that regard. You heard through our applicant that there's also the public service announcements, local announcements as well, and the benefit of real-time messaging provides for emergency alerts, amber alerts, traffic alerts, fugitive alerts, all of those things that goes with this land use, which is now well documented. In terms of site suitability, I thought it was important to hear that this is the only site along 287 where the state DOT has determined that this is a permitted location in accordance with the state regulations. And there is actually a definition in the state regulations where they call out what a permitted location is. The regulations are, is that a question or is that a stretch?
Well, I just want to stay within the state approved regulation. Regulation, does that have to do with height at all by the state regulations?
The state regulates size and location.
Right, so not height.
We can talk about height.
And zones. You can't put them in a...
It does not preempt the board. I'm not trying to handcuff the board by saying because the state says it's okay, you have to say it's okay.
Well, that's the main variance we're looking at here on this application.
It's the height.
Thank you.
We'll get there. So
I don't think, John, that he said that the DOT has determined this is the only site. I think what he said was, this is the only site that has been approved.
I stand corrected. This is, if you go through the list of permitted locations, and that's based on applications, this is the only one that has been approved. That's correct. Of the applied
sites.
Yes. I'm not sure if there was others that have been applied and denied. That I don't know, but I do know this is the only one in Parsippany along. I think that gives some credence to particular suitability from a use standpoint.
How many, do you know how many were applied for?
I don't.
So this could be the only one.
It could be the only one. There is a.
No, we know that there were applications made and approved and abandoned
I'll accept that.
over time.
I'll accept that. Again, the point is, in terms of consideration of particular suitability, which is part of the use variance test, the state has said that this is a permitted location. That all goes towards the positive criteria, and I think that even if we took that and cast it aside, we do have a site that fronts on a freeway and that has significant frontage on that freeway as well, and in a largely non-residential area. That all goes towards the positives. The negatives, the big three, of course, are functional impacts, which we know, much like a cell tower, this is as functionally innocuous as a land use as there is. No traffic, no population, no demand on services and the like. Visual impact is the key. I've tried to give the board the rationale from a distance standpoint and some of the cases that I've been involved with, how this is innocuous from a visual impact standpoint. And then finally, the brightness impact. We talk about illumination versus luminance. Luminance is the actual cast off of the light itself, the physical light source. We don't regulate that from a planning standpoint generally. Typically regulate illumination, which is the cast of the light on the ground. You've heard our engineer talk about how we will comply with this 0.3 foot candle level limit above ambient, which is a standard that we typically see in most towns or in most ordinances with this. So again, the actual light output itself can be regulated based on ambient light. When it's dark, it tones down. When it's light outside, it beefs up. And that can be monitored, I'll say digitally or electronically. It does not have to be monitored manually by a person. Brightness, functional impacts, visual impacts. Now we talk about the height itself. From a horizontal standpoint, we think the location is well situated. The height, this is an area obviously where we have truck traffic and significant truck traffic, and importantly, the read of this particular sign, the multi-message aspect of the sign, is going to be a cross read from the other side of the highway, where we're looking at trucks not only on the subject side of the highway, but also on the opposite side of the highway. So again, we're looking at potentially 10 lanes of traffic to see this sign. You can see from the visual, from the aerial, that there's a lot of truck traffic that goes down 287. And this just provides an opportunity for the use to effectuate itself, to enhance its visibility. It's a balancing here. The applicant has tried to find that vertical sweet spot where the visibility will be enhanced without creating a negative visual impact on the surrounding properties. From a planning standpoint, I think that balance is met considering the fact that we do have the larger tree masses pretty much framing the entire property. With that, we think the Grasso test is met, which talks about things like shadow effects, blocking scenic views, and over-intensity of use, which certainly this land use doesn't do. Last part of the test, or the last relief that the applicant needs, is related to the rear yard setback of 2 feet versus the 50 feet. No interference with the operation of the site itself, no interference with clear lines of sight on the highway, no safety impacts associated with that 2-foot setback, and clearly not violating the planning goal for adequate light, air, and open space. With that, we think the tests are met for the D1, the D6, and the C relief that the applicant seeks, and approval is warranted.
Thank you, Mr. McDonough. I have no further questions for this witness.
Questions of Mr. McDonough? No questions?
No.
John?
I don't know if the board does.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'm thinking of one, because I had one when I lost it.
The V or angle, how would, I don't think it's a good time of night to decide what it is gonna be exactly, but could we set up some parameters, if the board approves this, that it will be so that the static face isn't viewable from any home on, was it Jefferson?
That's Jacksonville.
Jacksonville.
There are homes on
Within
Ensign Road, too.
some distance.
Ensign Road.
Now, the case you cited, the judge talked about 600 feet. That was just a Superior Court case, right?
That's a lower division case. I just throw it out there. That's
So-
one judge.
I think you're missing one big thing, and that's superimposing the billboard onto one of these drawings, so we see exactly what it's gonna look like.
Yeah, we can't.
We can't tell. You've given us great information, and I believe everything you said. I wanna see what it's gonna look like.
I think you need.
You can't do anything unless you're gonna show me that picture.
I think you need to show.
You can't show, you don't show me the picture, you can tell me all you want.
I'm just gonna make one comment. if I
Yes,
may.
you can make all the comments you like.
In an effort to satisfy the residents that spoke with respect to possibly being able to see the static face,
Mhm.
I would eliminate it and just have the one digital face where they couldn't see it at all under any circumstances. I would eliminate that static face, so that would take the issue completely off the table.
So you're gonna have a one-sided sign.
Excuse me?
You have a
But
one-sided sign.
Isn't the one
Yes.
that's going to be?
It's the static face that
Yeah,
they
for
indicated.
Westminster, the static face is the only sign.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
I-
I was looking at it in reverse then.
Mr. Chairman, I would,
It will still have to angle the digital side a little bit.
yes, that digital side would be angled, but I would eliminate the static face so that there would be absolutely no issue at all with respect to the residents that spoke this evening.
The back side of that thing, I've seen it, but I can't remember. How do they cover up those lights?
There's no,
panel?
on the back, all you see is darkness on the back of the sign. There's no light at all on the back.
Maybe in the back of a television.
Yeah.
So your initial plan on the static side was just have the local, the businesses over
That,
there?
I was doing it as an accommodation to the landlord and to the folks who were there, but I would eliminate that to accommodate the concerns of the residents present this evening.
And so, I guess the other point for me on the back residents with the buffer, none of them are here, but talking about the building as a buffer, but this is twice the height of the building. So frankly, that building doesn't buffer the residents across Enton Road and Jacksonville Drive in that area from the sign.
And here's a point on that also.
Okay.
With respect to the static face, because of the trees, we believe that 75 feet is the right height. If I can build this lower and the trees don't block me, I would do that as well.
Do you have any idea what that might look like? Because right now, the variance you're asking for is pretty significant, right?
We've got testimony that the tree height, 75 feet, was set by putting the base to the bottom of the base of the sign, the bottom of the sign, above the trees that are there now.
Your problem, Mr. O'Neill, is John's trying to set up an argument for particular suitability. And if I got a bunch of trees in the front of where I want to place it, how do you reconcile that? So he's caught in that. I think
You don't have any place where there are no trees.
I think where you need to go, where Mr. Ira Kane was talking, is somehow or other superimpose a view from Jacksonville. Do you want to look over the building and see what it looks like?
I can-
You can't, but the trees are 100, we have testimony they're 100 feet.
The
high.
leaves are going to be off. Take them out of there.
I can make
Take the
a
trees
revision
out.
right now.
Huh?
You want an exhibit taking trees out?
Now, if the building,
Just to drop the leaves off.
the
Go
building is 45 feet. If I can go, I mean, you can see the trees, if I can be 20 feet above the building, that would give me the space I need, And, I mean, you can see it on, you can see the building, it's 45 feet. If I can go 20 feet above, I think that would do it for me. I could reduce it from 75 to 65.
Your new sign is gonna be 14 by...
14 by 48,
14 by 48.
yes.
The height of the building is 42?
45 feet.
45. So 14 and 45 adds up to what?
60.
60.
1,500.
59. So you
Yeah.
could live with 60.
But it would.
You gotta be off the
I have to have a 3-foot.
separation?
Yeah. If I can go 65 feet, I can do it.
Is there going to be any height other than street level that we're not going to want to see a picture of? Mr. Irakin?
Excuse me?
Is there going to be any height that he's going to agree to that we're not going to want to see a rendering of other than street level? Right?
I don't know, maybe I'm just old-fashioned, but, and I could have sworn in the old days John did things like this. But he didn't do it here, did you, John? You would have done this in the old days, right, John?
I'll
John, you
defer
can-
to our applicant.
I mean, you see the building's 45. I mean, the building's 45, I have to,
Can I have a moment to speak to my
Wait,
client?
we got a few things. We got a few things going on here tonight, okay? Number one, we only have 5 members. You need 5 affirmative votes.
Yes,
Okay?
I'm aware of that.
You can count those, right? You can, that's
I
not.
went to college and I can count the 5.
You can count the 5, good, without taking off your shoes and socks, right?
Sure, that
Number
you
2, I'm sure that the objectors are gonna wanna have an opportunity to speak.
Yeah.
It is 10 minutes to 10. When do you wanna come back? What do you got, Nora?
December 4th.
December 4th. And this will give you 2 months to talk to your client, then you don't need to go out into the hallway. Okay?
We ask that this be carried without further notice. We ask, and we
And
will
you-
further grant
you
all
agree-
extensions.
You agree to give us whatever extensions are necessary
I'll give you extensions to the end of December.
till the end of December. Okay, thank you.
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And think about that, about superimposing. Do we have any other business, Nora?
No other business.
A motion to adjourn? Is there a
Make-
second?
We need a motion to carry the case.
Oh, is there a motion to carry? I thought I did that.
I didn't want to.
Who's gonna do that motion?
All in favor?
Bernie did it?
Yeah, I moved
Seconded
it.
by?
Seconded.
Ready,
Was it
any
December?
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, now a motion.
A5.
Motion to carry?
What?
That next exhibit will be A5.
There we go. After that, it gets complicated.
No, the exhibit he wants will be A5.
Good night, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
I got a breakfast meeting 7 o'clock in the morning.